This hourly segment is brought to you by TDS Metrocom, offering X-Data Business Internet. Call 1-877-METROCOM.
Connected with Chicago. News Talk 890, WLS.
8:10, 10 past 8 with Don Wade and Roma. A quick program note here about this weekend. Roma and I are going to be out at the Old House, New House Home Show, and hope that you'll join us in St. Charles. That's at the Pheasant Run Resort. Going to be a great big show, and so we're going to be there at the Cambria booth.
Yes, we will.
It's the WLS and Cambria booth at the Old House, New House Home Show on Saturday from 2 to 4. Hope that we'll see you there.
We want to see your face. Boy, people are ticked off about the Bears. We are getting so much email trying to find one positive thing about it. And they go to some great extent, I'll tell you.
Let me say, what did you want to elaborate on that before we get to the spy business? Or
maybe you better take care of breaking news and all of these events that are happening.
All right, the breaking stories are these. First of all, it isn't any big surprise that the Justice Department has launched what they're calling a full-blown criminal investigation into who leaked the name of a CIA officer. President Bush has directed the White House staff to cooperate fully. So they've moved from a preliminary investigation into the full probe. So
Good.
There's that. So we'll get to the bottom of that, and that'll be fine. Now, the story that is a lot more troubling to me is that we have a physician working as a translator at the U.S. prison camp at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, was arrested in a series of apprehensions that have raised questions about security at Guantanamo.
The arrest was at Boston's Logan International Airport, and a senior law enforcement official who discussed this case on the grounds of anonymity identified the suspect as Ahmed Mahalba.
Mahalba had stopped in Boston after arriving on a flight from Cairo. The agents with the Immigration and Customs Enforcement noticed some documents that appeared to have come from the prison camp, Guantanamo, and they suspected that they were classified, so they called the FBI to interview Mr. Mahalba, who denied that the documents were his.
I don't know how they got on me or in my possessions.
Yeah. After the interview, the FBI arrested Mahalba on charges of making false statements. He is being held, and further charges are possible. Now, this is all very difficult to deal with, and keep in mind, the reason that it's difficult to deal with is because of the tradition in the United States of America of honoring people's traditions under our freedom of religion in our Constitution. Because of the tradition of freedom of religion, we hesitate to question anyone's beliefs, no matter how wacky we might think they are. But because of this hesitation, we may have made ourselves vulnerable to terrorists.
In the most improper places. Let's talk to Jim Hickey. We've got him with us this morning, our national correspondent for ABC News in New York.
Hi, Jim.
Hey, Jim. Good morning.
Okay, wait a minute. He's on this line up here.
Okay.
Is this Jim?
There you are.
Good morning.
There you are. I had the wrong
line. I'm here. I'm
okay. John's new at this, you know.
And so now,
new kid on the block. I know.
Are you calling about the bust in Boston?
Well, we have two things happening, and I think probably the more immediate matter that perhaps we might want to chat about is something that's coming from the Justice Department just moments ago. Justice says, has informed the White House that it has opened an investigation into the possible unauthorized disclosures concerning the identity of a CIA employee.
Yes, we just reported that it's a full-blown investigation.
A full-blown investigation, and as part of that investigation, the White House has informed staffers who work there to preserve all material that could be relevant to this investigation. Presumably that would be telephone logs, emails, memos, that sort of thing. The president, through his spokesman, Scott McClellan, told reporters this morning that he wants all White House staffers to cooperate fully with the Justice Department because the president regards the disclosure of the identity of a secret agent to be a very serious matter.
Well, it's not exactly a secret agent. She works for the CIA as
any kind of agent.
Well, yeah, okay. So there is
Right, that's very interesting.
It is good. If crimes were committed, terrific. Take them away in the handcuffs, although I don't think Karl Rove is the guy who's going to be dragged away as Joe Wilson wants him.
They're going to look at appointment calendars for who had meetings with Novak for sure, and who had phone calls with him.
It's not only the identity, it's anything classified having to do with the CIA. McClellan says the president considers any leak of classified information a serious matter, and that would include the identity of an agent, a CIA agent.
Yeah, what's troubling me more than that, Jim, and that is the story about the arrest in Boston of yet another person who has taken classified information from that camp where we have lots of suspects in the war on terror being held. And we've got the question of religion and all of that, which is a very sensitive subject and very hard for people to deal with.
It is difficult to deal with, in addition to which, in fact, we were talking about this coming up on the elevator just a few moments ago here at our newsroom. You have to wonder about the security at Gitmo, at Guantanamo Bay. If this gentleman, whose name was released as Ahmed Mahaba, who was detained at Boston's Logan Airport this morning, he was a translator, a physician working as a translator at the prison camp. Apparently he had on him CD-ROMs containing classified information.
Yeah.
And he was coming back from Cairo.
Coming back from Cairo.
Yeah, it wasn't like he was leaving Guantanamo and going somewhere. He's coming back from Cairo, and he's got this stuff with him. Well,
which he, of course, claims is not his. But this is very disturbing, although we're getting email from listeners this morning saying that if this was a plan to out the spies in Gitmo, it seems to be working very well. They seem to be nailing them 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a curious point of view, a different angle on this.
Yeah.
You're talking about the other man, Ahmed al-Habi,
yes,
who was charged with espionage.
Yes, and the chaplain that's being detained, Joseph Yee.
And and again, this raises questions about the clearing procedure that was instituted early on that allowed people to act as translators, chaplains, and whatnot at Guantanamo Bay.
So let me see, which story is going to lead the news tonight with Peter Jennings? Shall we take a wild stab and say...
Flip a coin, and it's going to come down White House being investigated by...
Leak versus security.
That'll be your second story.
Okay.
Okay.
Jim, good talking to you.
Okay.
All right, Jim Hickey is national correspondent, ABC News in New York. The story about this, the guy being busted, and the Brian Ross report last night, real troubling stuff. Brian Ross did an investigative report, which, and let me give you the gist of it without running the whole thing that was on there last night, and this is basically the essence. For the last 6 years, the Pentagon has relied on an unaccredited school in Leesburg, Virginia, to train and certify most of the 13 Muslim chaplains. This is for the past 6 years. But for the last 18 months, the Graduate School of Islamic and Social Sciences has also been a part of a federal investigation into possible financial ties to Al-Qaeda. So the people who have financial ties to Al-Qaeda are the ones who are certifying the Muslim chaplains. Oh my gosh, is this the fox guarding the hen house? And how stupid do we have to be?
And they paid for, there were some interesting trips they took as well.
Yeah, in the school, a part of a network of organizations set up in 1997 with money from Saudi Arabian sources, says that Mr. Yee, the chaplain, was never a student there, was not endorsed by the school, and is not known personally by any of the employees there. Whoa, what's that about? So they now have the school and its president, Taha Jabir Alawani, being part of a federal investigation into possible financial ties to al-Qaeda. The school has denied any terrorist ties, and until recently, the Pentagon has not conducted its own review, according to ABC. But one Muslim group says that for the sake of national security, that's our U.S. national security, and the reputation of the Muslim chaplains, the Pentagon needs to reevaluate its reliance on that Virginia school. Qasim Ogda, director of the American Muslim Armed Forces and Veteran Affairs Council, says, so until this has been cleared, you should not endorse chaplains. If their doctrine is to cause harm, they could easily plant the seed within one of our troops. So the Pentagon, citing freedom of worship, says they have to be sensitive in setting rules geared toward specific religious groups. Well, let me lay this out for them real plain. If your denomination, your subsect of some major religion, advocates killing people to make the world better for your group, this is unacceptable. Let me give you an example that would be analogous. Fringe Christian group advocates killing all Muslims as enemies of Christians. That fringe Christian group should not be asked for advice on who should be a chaplain. And under no circumstance should a chaplain from that group be allowed to minister to anybody in our military or have access to our military prisoners. I don't care who the religion is. 822 WLS.